I'm recording this on Monday, and as of today, we just had the worst day in the stock market since December 2024. We just got new tariffs announced on Canada of 25%, new tariffs on Mexico of 25%, and an additional 10% tariff on China. Year to date, from the beginning of the year until today, the stock market is negative at 0.5%. Things sound bad, but what should we do as investors? Is this a time for us to adjust? Is it a time to panic? Or is it something that we can just wait out and perhaps things will change on their own? Let's go ahead and break it down. There are some things that we need to figure out and explain about what is happening in the stock market currently. And I've got 3 tips for us to go through. And one of them, I'm gonna be honest, you probably aren't going to like, but I am dead serious here, and it's going to be one that you're not really going to expect. And then there are a few more that are even more practical. The first one is, and I'm going to say it with a straight face, but stick with me. Listen to the entire thing. It is going to be valuable. I'm putting out these warnings for a reason. I told you. I told you. I'm not saying I told you so, but I am telling you that I told you. This is why you want to subscribe to the channel. And the reason why I say that, okay, calm down. The reason why I say that is because we knew about the risk of tariffs and what it could do to your investments. And if you have been a subscriber, then you know that somebody like me has been talking about a company like Netflix. I've been talking about, I don't like to say, tariff proof, but I've been talking about that risk and moving your portfolio into spaces that can help to reduce the risk of tariffs. We have known since November, at least since November, that this was a bona fide risk. That's why I invested in Netflix. I said it, right? I said it on tape. Y'all saw it. Just last week, literally just last week, I said that I was going to move, or I talked about one of the reasons why I liked finance stocks is because they were an area where I don't really see tariffs playing that big of a factor. And I'm going to talk about that in tip number 2 as well. But for example, Netflix today, and that's not to say that Netflix won't lose money. Okay, I'm not saying that. I noticed I didn't say it was going to protect all losses. But today, for example, Netflix was down 0.7% compared to a company like Nvidia that is down 8%. Right? Nvidia can ship those chips, gotta say it slow, can ship their products to and fro, right? They could see a tariff, right? Whereas a Netflix, it's just streaming, right? I don't really see that type of tariff impacting them. Same thing with finance, because you are a bank, right? And again, I'll get more into that in the second one, but that is the value. When you can see a risk, you can try and prevent it. This is the exact same inversion technique that we learned from, I was going to say from Warren Buffett, but from his, you guys know what I'm talking about, from Charlie Munger. He says, what is the worst case scenario? What is that risk? And think about all that and just flip it in reverse. So if tariffs are the worst thing that can happen to your portfolio, and that's going to be a thing that is going to ruin everything. So invest in all the worst things that a tariff could do to your portfolio, and do the opposite, right? Invest in all the things that tariffs can't touch, and do that, right? Well, maybe it's finance, maybe it's Netflix, and think of all those things. What do you think we talked about in my 2025 workshop? What do you think I've been inserting in some of these lists that we've been talking about this entire time since November? That is why I've been talking about those things. When I talked about some of the healthcare stocks that I brought up, there were some that I said, like Intuitive Surgical. I said, I don't really see. Go back and watch those videos. I said, I don't really see surgical equipment being in a tariff category, whereas medicine, I saw, an issue due to RFK Jr. Those were reasons as to why, and I said those out loud. That is why you subscribe. All right. Now, moving on to number 2, you may want to consider rather defensive stocks. Now, here's where things get more interesting. Typically speaking, when you enter a recession, and I'm not saying that we're going through a recession or anything like that, though that is a possibility, I don't think that being down 0.5% in the stock market is not a recession. Okay. 2 things can be mutually exclusive. The stock market can be down just a little bit, and a recession cannot happen. All right. If we get there, it would be at least, what's today, March. We wouldn't know or be able to even confirm it is or was not a recession until at least September. Okay, we don't know that. All right, we wouldn't know it's a bear market or the stock market was really, really bad until the market was down 20%. We're down 0.5%. Okay, so you are not hearing it from me first that we're even near a recession. Relax. Okay, or that this is even a bear market or even a correction. A correction is down 10%. Relax. Okay, so we're not there. However, it might be at least a good time, like I said before, to at least have those defensive stocks in your back pocket and have them at the ready. It might be time to go and hit that invest button, maybe, right? If you haven't done so already. Now, here is the difference between defensive stocks years ago and defensive stocks today. Defensive stocks in the past were usually all the things that you had to buy and have regardless. So a Walmart made more sense. A Kroger absolutely made sense back in the day. Now those still may work. Okay, they still may work. I may do a defensive stock video for 2025. If you want me to, put that in the comments. Now Kroger this morning, another reason why you should subscribe, lost their CEO. I say lost, he quit because he was doing some stuff. I put out a notification this morning about him quitting. That's why you want to subscribe. But in either case, he's gone. I don't know what's going to happen to Kroger. When a CEO leaves, I'm like, bruh, don't ask me. I don't know. So there's that. However, outside of that, like, yes, Walmart can increase their prices. That may help them stay afloat. But in a case like this, I think the defense is usually defense against recession. We may not be going that direction. Today, it's defense against tariffs. So defense now could be more of the Netflixes. Defense now could be more of the finance stocks, because typically defense against recession is not a finance stock. That's not where you want to be. It is not a tech stock. That's usually not where you want to be. Well, if it's defense against tariffs, that's a different story. So defensive stocks it's perhaps where you want to be. We can do a whole video on what that could look like. But the reason why, again, I think finance stocks could work. Again, I did a whole video as to why that could work. Talked a little bit about energy. That might be a spot. Again, finance could be a spot because they're not shipping goods back and forth. The way that tariffs work, did a whole video about tariffs. You want to check that out as well, is because you are slapping a tax on the things that you're moving to and fro. It's just a loan, right? Now, mostly, right, if I'm a Chase Bank or Bank of America and I'm loaning you money to buy a home, how? Slapping a tariff where? Right? And as long as you remain solvent, and as long as you got your job and you can pay me back for a loan, we're all good here. The only way that I see this being an issue is if we go into a deep recession. If tariffs truly cause that much pain where all of this does collapse. Now that is a doomsday scenario, which moves us into number 3. This is still a very fluid situation, which is why I would not panic. 3 to 4 weeks ago, we had 10% tariffs on Canada and on Mexico. Stock market freaked out. Everybody freaked out. Everything was on fire. 24 to 48 hours later, the tariffs were paused for 30 days. Everything went back to normal. Stock market went up. Who's to say this isn't the same? Who's to say that this won't last for a week, for 2 days, for 10 days, for all we know, and then everything go back to normal, or some deal is struck? We do not know. I would not make a permanent decision, meaning I'm taking a loss on something or I'm selling what could be a good stock, and you lock that gain in or you lock that loss in, and then this changes due to a flick of the pen or a tweet, and now you got to turn around and like do something to try and get that money back or whatever. We don't know. You don't know, I don't know, nobody knows, and this appears to be a very fluid, I don't want to use the word chaotic. You can. I'm not going to use that word. But it seems wild that all these things are just kind of happening, seems flippantly. But again, I'm not in the room. I'm not the one making these decisions. And it doesn't seem logical. Because again, we've done the math on what tariffs could do and whether or not they make sense and what they can and cannot fund. So the math doesn't math to me, but again, you can watch that video and figure that out for yourself. But in either case, I personally I will make my adjustments in June. If we still got these tariffs in June, that will make those adjustments accordingly, and what happens between now and then happens. But it doesn't make much sense to me to rework my entire portfolio for something that may not even, exist by the end of the week. It popped up out of nowhere. It could be erased by the end of the week. Why rework my entire portfolio, right? This is why I made those adjustments in December, because we knew in November that tariffs could be an issue. And that's why when you make these adjustments in advance, if you know, right, you'll always know, but when you know these things, you say, okay, well, Netflix is doing well. Just for example, you continue to do your research and see whether or not you like Netflix. But for example, Netflix was already doing well at that period. It just so happened to also be a solid stock that could also help with tariffs. So it fits both baskets. Therefore, I invested. Right? So that's kind of how you want to approach some of these things, where it can do both and you can stick with it. That is why you subscribe to the channel. But it's also why you can protect yourself and help yourself in situations like this, so you can remain calm and this doesn't have to scare you into a situation, right? When everybody else is posting on whatever platform about what the market is doing, I don't have to do none of that. Last tip I'll give you, and it's really a bonus tip, and it's one you should know, and if you don't, it's fine. Keep your investments automated if you haven't already. You guys know that I like M1 Finance. There's a link for that in the description below. But apps like that, or just your regular 401k, leave those alone. Leave those alone, all right? If you are investing 15%, $200 a week, whatever it is, on whatever app, or again, your 401k, have it continue to take out whatever money it is and leave it investing alone. We have seen this in 2020 when people reacted, withdrew money, took a loss, and the market recovered by the end of the year. But if you withdrew your money in March, we're in March now, I'm not saying that's where we're going, right? But people withdrew their money and did not make it back, and the market absolutely recovered. In fact, we were up double digits in 2020. I would not have thought that the market was going to be up, but I left it alone, okay? I don't know where the market is going to go by the end of 2025. I'm not going to claim to know. What I am going to tell you is I'm going to leave my money invested. Will I change up some stocks in June? I probably will. In June, I will likely make some adjustments. And maybe you'll make an adjustment or two. But overreacting today might not make the best sense. What you should do is continue to stay informed. Do not overreact, but continue to do your research and maybe make just tiny adjustments based on some of those defensive stocks. So hopefully this was helpful. If you want to learn more about what defensive stocks can make sense, as well as what tariffs are and how they work, you want to check out these videos right here.